Yes.
Linda? Not here. Robert?
Yes.
Judith?
Yes.
Thank you, Donna. We have quorum. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I apologize, I'm flipping between screens. So I call for a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Robert.
Second.
Second by Judith, right?
Yep.
Roll call. Donna?
Chris?
Yes.
Maria Piscopo?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Judith?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. So next we'll move on to comments from the public. Again, public comments were to be submitted to Mary Maggio at addisonlibrary.org or by phone. It should have been today, no later than 6:30 p.m. Again, public comment is not necessarily a dialogue between individuals and the board. Per the board bylaws, there shall be no expectation of immediate response. On any matters raised during public comment, the board may, however, refer any matter of public comment to the library director, library staff, another appropriate individual or agency, or may place the matter on a future meeting agenda for reply. Mary, did we receive any public comments?
We did not.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. So next we'll move on to the financial report by the treasurer. So Marianne is not present with us today, but there is a report that's provided. So our revenue received in January 2021 is $46,817.68. Year to date, we have $5,802,686.14. I apologize, I'm like between screens. Expenditures, so expended in January 2021 is $352,557.88. Our year to date expenditures is $3,160,984.45. Disbursements are $166,827 with 1 cent plus January 21 payroll of $197,935.76. Our grand total for January 2021 disbursements is $364,762.77. The difference between the amount expended and the total disbursements is explained in the expense reconciliation report. So are there any questions related to any of the financial documents that are presented or comments?
I just have a quick question. On page 5 of the revenue report, what are the uncollected receipts for, or where are they from rather? Uncollected receipts. The total would be $159,205. That's uncollected for the year.
It's the difference between the amount we budgeted for revenue and what we've actually collected.
And the revenue comes from, where's the revenue come from?
Well, if you look at each line item within that budget, some of it comes from property taxes, some of it comes from fines and fees that we collect, some of it comes from grants, some of it comes from interest on money that we have invested, donations,
right.
Support from the Friends of the Library. So each of those line items, we put into the budget at the start of the year what we estimate will be our revenue. So the 5 columns across on that report, the first column is what we received this month in each of those budget lines. The next column is what we've received year to date for this fiscal year. The third column is what we had originally budgeted, what we anticipated coming in. So the uncollected receipts, the next column is the difference between that budgeted amount and what we've received this year to date. And then the last column is the percent collected. Right. So all total, we've collected a little over 97% of what we had budgeted so far this year.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions related to the financial documents presented? No? I did get a message. Linda will be joining us hopefully in the next 5 minutes, she said. So then I'll just make comment once she's present on here as well. So next we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is consent agenda. So I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda that consists of the meeting minutes and the treasurer's report as presented. Thank you, Piscopo.
I was waiting.
No, thank you. So motion by me, second by Piscopo. Roll call vote, Donna?
Chris,
Yes.
Maria Piscopo,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Robert,
Robert?
Like
I forgot I was on mute. Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Robert.
and Judith.
yes.
Motion passes. Donna, Linda Durek is joining the meeting. I just let her in, so she's present for the meeting. I forgot to mention at the beginning, Miriam Fotopoulos is not here. She's absent but accounted for, so she won't be present at this meeting. I apologize for the delay. So then next we'll move on to, actually, I apologize. Next we'll move on to reports. Are there any comments, discussion on any of the reports presented, director and staff reports, and anything to update, Mary, on your report?
I do have one issue I want to bring up that was not included in my report. Mike and Marcy from Adult Services and I met today with representatives from the Hamdard Center for Health here in Addison. The purpose of the meeting was they wanted to discuss with us the possibility of the library serving as a vaccination site for the COVID-19 vaccine. They would administer the vaccines and oversee the program. We would only provide the site. So there's a little background to it. This isn't something they are looking to start or are able to start this week or this month. The fact is there is not enough vaccine available in DuPage County right now for them to do this, but they're preparing for what the county and state have been telling them, that soon there will be. And by soon, I don't know if that's next month or in April or sometime in the coming weeks. One of the figures they shared with us is, as you may know, President Biden has pledged to vaccinate 100 million Americans in the first 100 days of his presidency. That is a pretty lofty goal, and to give it context, they shared with us that only 87 million Americans get a wellness checkup annually with their doctor. So our healthcare system is simply not set up to vaccinate the number of Americans who are going to be seeking this vaccine when it becomes more readily available. And because of that, healthcare providers like Hamdard are trying to be innovative and think creatively. They don't have the capacity to see the number of people they would like to distribute the vaccine to in their offices. They just don't have the square footage to operate what they envision. But if they partner with the library, they think our meeting room, where they've done many programs in the past, would be ideally suited to this. We've done flu shot clinics in the past. Those are usually a one-day thing. This would be something more substantial. They're envisioning at least 3 days a week and maybe 5 days a week. Using our meeting room, it would be on a by appointment basis. They can do 20 vaccines an hour, they estimate. And they're thinking of coming 2 or 3 hours a day. So we would be vaccinating 40 to 60 community members each day. For what length of time, I don't know. Starting possibly in March, more likely early April. Definitely they would like to continue through May and June and then just see where this goes. For us,
Sorry, Mary, who is that asked? Who is that
Hamdard Center.
I'm sorry?
Hamdard Center for Health and Human Services here in Addison. Thank you. Right now, we're not using our meeting room. We're meeting virtually like we are this evening for the most part. We're doing virtual programming and our meeting room is sitting empty for the most part. So from our perspective, we think this could work. I would work with our attorney on a memo of understanding to make sure we're covered. We would make sure they provide a certificate of insurance and that we understand how all of this would work. But before we go further figuring out the logistics of this, I wanted to just throw this out to the board to find out if you think this is something we should pursue.
You're talking about
it's a little bit outside of our traditional mission.
The auditorium, right? That you walk in and you turn to the right,
yes,
and it's right there. That's the advantage.
Right. That's it.
People would not have to walk through the library to get to the vaccination.
Right.
Which
And I trust this will not interfere with any of our existing programs or anything we're doing now or place any undue burden on our staff.
I don't think so, Robert. Well, Mary, you said we've had vaccinations before for the flu, correct?
Correct. In that same room. So I envision it working similar to that, except that it wouldn't be just a single Saturday or a single one-day event. It would be ongoing. The truth is we won't be able to return to in-person programming and in-person meetings and the other things we use that room for until the vaccine is more widely distributed in the community and we sort of get ahead of this pandemic. So in that regard, it could even help us get back to more traditional uses of our building.
Correct. I know. Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
That's right. So I'm a little disappointed. We have no problem with the idea of doing it, but I'm a little disappointed in how many people they anticipate that they can vaccinate. So 60 people.
Well,
I just want to.
That's if we let them use the room for 3 hours a day. I mean, if we want to open it up to 8 hours a day or more, we can talk about doing more.
And would that be taking away from our own programming then? You're still not using the room until?
We're really not using it now.
So I know
so that was
doing the vaccination too. And I think some of these larger spaces, I just don't want to, I guess I don't want to commit to somebody that's only going to do it for that small of an amount if there's a possibility that somebody else would want to utilize it and would vaccinate more people. And I don't know where you go from there.
Correct. I know it's based off of, Linda, I think it's based off of how many they get. I know that that's the reason why some places don't like Hamdard, for example, they only get an allotted certain amount at the beginning.
Right.
So then, correct. I think because they get allotted that amount as an organization, we would be at least helping vaccinate. I know that Bensonville is set up with another program similar, not with their local like we are, but another outside organization, and so is Helen Plum. I guess I'm all for vaccination, so
me too.
Only because I feel like, to be quite honest with you, some of the feedback that I've gotten because of the current vaccination that happened, that people were able to sign up. I know some people have a language barrier, and we do have other individuals that would benefit from access. I think if we had it on other days, not just the couple days that have come up with the school, I do think if we make ourselves, I guess, available, and
I really have no problem with that.
But I understand what you're saying, Linda. Like if it were more, would we be helping the efforts, I guess, right?
I I think the number that they have said that they could vaccinate in our room is perfect for the size of that room. When I got vaccinated the other day, the rooms were huge. They were basketball courts beside each other. This is a meeting room. I think their numbers are perfect for the library. And you know, if it's 60 a day in 3 hours, say they do that 5 days a week, and that's 300 vaccinations. Mm-hmm. Arms that were not vaccinated before. Mm-hmm. And I'm for it. I really am. I think the parking lot is fine also, plenty big enough.
And if it's not, I'm sure we could probably talk to the village, right, Mary?
Right.
To let them know if our parking lot winds up being, I don't want to say full, but seeing that, I also think I don't know that we've gotten as many, which will probably move us later into our statistics. I don't know how many people we've had, and it's been cold. So, I mean, this could very much, it could very much change too, since it's in March and it will be a little bit warmer, so.
And we provide.
Yeah, I mean, we will have to look at the overall capacity of the building and whether we want to include these people coming in just for immunizations in the total, if we're continuing to limit it to 50, or if we want to expand that number or keep that count separate from other patrons coming into the library. There's a lot we'd still need to talk about. Right. And I will add, I hadn't thought about it in our meeting today, but mentioning the parking lot, the village has gone back out to bid for the parking lot reconstruction project. I believe the bid was supposed to be awarded last night at the village board meeting. I'm not sure, I didn't hear from them today. But they plan to get that reconstruction project started as soon as weather allows, as early as possible this spring. So there could be parts of our parking lot that are being reconstructed and unavailable during this. So we'd have to factor that into our plans too, but we'll sort it out and make it work. And as long as you're at least on board with us to continue discussing this with the county and with Hamdard, we'll keep talking and see if we can make something work. And hopefully by next month's meeting, I'll have more information to share.
Cool.
I'm in favor of it. Yes, we already provide a lot of services to our community, and this is just consistent with adding one more. So,
exactly, and it's great promotion too. We got people walking into the library and they may say, hey, you know, maybe not now, but I want to look around. I want to get a card.
Right.
Good.
Cool.
I think what I like about it, and I think it's just sorry, Mary. I was just gonna say, because like when we did the flu vaccination, I had parents that don't have insurance, and you know, it was great to have that partnership with the flu vaccine at that moment, because I was able to get parents who typically would never get vaccinated, you know, because they don't have health coverage. So I think my concern is always, you know, also people that don't have health insurance.
Good. Yeah.
Sorry, Episcopal.
Well, I think we're all in agreement, right? We're all in agreement that we are for it.
As long as, Mary, as long as you are for it and the staff is for it, then I think that's great. As long as everyone is okay with it, then I don't see why we wouldn't be.
Are you in agreement, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions on my report or any of the other staff reports?
Now, did anyone have any questions about the other reports, department reports?
In the teen section, I know this is a dumb question, but what is the sea shanty craze? Do you know? It looks exciting.
It was a song that took off on the internet. So like all these people started singing sea shanties, and so it's very pop culture and of the moment in social media.
Thank you, Brooke.
You're welcome.
As I can tell, I'm not the pop culture and the social media.
On those trends.
The trends, correct.
I encourage you all to look it up after the meeting. It's very entertaining.
Look up sea shanty, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely will. Are there any other questions about the reports? No? So then we can move on to monthly statistics. Are there any questions or discussion on the monthly statistics report? No? Okay. So then we'll move on to, seeing that there's no discussion on the other items, we'll move on to new business. So the first item that we have is a discussion item. The discussion item is related to our Serving Our Public 4.0 chapters 12-13 review. So the trustees education requirement for the 2020 Illinois State Library per capita grant application is to review the Serving Our Public 4.0 standards for Illinois public libraries. So the board, as we will do now, will review chapters 12 and 13 at this meeting. So looking at the information that's provided, are there any questions or discussion or things that stood out from the chapters that we had?
In the applicable publicity methods, podcasting and billboards, do we have billboards?
We do not. That's why I highlighted those two. Those are the ones we have not
Okay, I got
taken
it.
advantage of. Sorry, I should have put a note by those, but
No, that's
we've
okay.
done all of the other things in that list, but I don't think we've done any podcasting, have we, Brooke? And we've definitely never had billboards.
No, correct. I don't think so either.
Got it. Boy, that's a real fantasy, isn't it? See a billboard on Addison Public Library.
It would be great.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? And we could put, you know, little symbols for all the things that we have that the disabled can take advantage of, because that seems to be a constant theme, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or that, yeah, or that anyone, I agree, could take advantage of. Did you highlight, Mary, about having our website be compliant, ADA compliant?
Yeah, we are not 100% sure that we are 100% compliant, so that's something we will work on in the year ahead. And jumping ahead a little bit in the agenda, you'll see that the per capita grant application itself asks us to identify the areas after reviewing all of these chapters that we need to work on and how we will use grant money to work on that. And that's one of the things I listed, that we will find a company to help us do an assessment of our website and work on making sure that we are.
Great.
Are there any other questions or comments related to the review? So the other one too, Mary, is the academic library catalog for iShare.
Yeah, we have.
I thought we had something,
we
right? No.
Have access to academic library collections. We just don't provide access to that particular catalog. I think that might be a state funded or state sponsored one, which is probably why it was specifically identified. But we use other resources to provide patron access to the same collections and can facilitate interlibrary loan for those materials.
Like journal articles, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I know I keep seeing the annual library walkthrough and I was like, yeah, I forgot about this. That we need to be doing.
Yep.
And typically, Mary, these are scheduled, correct? When we do our walkthrough, kind of like we did last time with everyone, which I feel like was a really long time ago.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that tonight under additional discussion, because I think it would be useful to do it sometime in the coming months as part of the budget planning process when we talk about some of the things we want to do in the building. So we can talk about that now if you want, or later. We are happy to have you come in as a group of 7 or do individual guided tours. We can do that in the morning before the library opens if that's convenient for anyone, or we're currently closing at 7 p.m. during the week. We could do it after hours, so it's a little easier to social distance and talk without disrupting other library users. Or if you want to come for individual tours, we can work with each of you in your schedule and try to make that work. But we definitely are due for a walkthrough, and I think it would be helpful as part of budget planning to have you see some of the things in the building that we want to address in the next year's budget.
And this is something we could do, well, I was going to propose like at our next board meeting, like after our board meeting. Or is that too late, Mary, for March?
No, it is not too late.
What time does the library close on Tuesday nights?
7?
7 p.m.
It does close at 7, so it would be after hours. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be, and I guess we have a finance meeting too, so we could do a finance meeting, the meeting, and a
Correct. I was going to have us scheduled all at the same time.
Yeah, right. I'm up for that, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that works.
That
works for me as well.
And then the finance will talk about what time we'll meet. Correct. Typically it's 30 minutes before. I don't know how many things are on our agenda as to how long we need to meet before that.
Do you want to discuss that now or wait until we get to additional discussion?
Let's see. That's fine. We'll wait till I keep jumping ahead. So
Okay.
we'll wait till our additional discussion. We'll wait till our additional discussion. Okay. So bringing us back to what we're discussing, we're review chapters 12 and 13. I apologize, we got off tangent.
And that is the end of Serving Our Public 4.0. We have now completed all 13 chapters.
Yay.
Good job.
So good job, everyone. Which then brings us into our Sorry, Mary?
I'll just add, the state has not formally announced it, but I've heard through the grapevine that next year's per capita grant application is going to be identical, that they're going to ask us to review all 13 chapters every year.
Got it.
So you can all think about whether you want to do it a couple chapters each month the way we did it this time, or if you have a different idea of how to approach it. But we don't have to decide that tonight because it's not even officially announced yet. But.
Got it. Thank you, Mary. So seeing as we've discussed all the chapters, it leads us into our next action item, which is I call for a motion. Sorry, Linda. I apologize. I should be monitoring the chat. Okay, no, that's okay. I call for a motion authorizing that our library director submit the Illinois Public Library per capita grant application as presented.
Have we discussed the grant?
Well, we're going to right now after someone seconds.
I got it. So moved. I
made the motion. Judith, second.
Second.
So now we'll have discussion.
Okay. It's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. You've done a great job, Mary. I have a question with the collections and services meeting the needs of the community in the village, and you talk about doing a deeper analysis. What would that look like? What would a deeper analysis look like?
So what it's related to, right? Is it our collections and services or what we have? Are you on page, Judith, are you on the page 2?
The bottom of page 2.
Correct.
Yeah, we hope to build on our community survey.
Correct. So that would be the survey that was presented by NIU.
Exactly. And
yes.
I remember it. So what would a deeper analysis look like? Would we do another survey, or what would that look like? A deeper analysis? Just curious.
Brooke, do you want to talk a little bit about our strategic planning process and the measurements we're trying to build into?
Yes, and I've been
sorry.
And I hear about the strategic plan all the way through this too. And there's a lot of things that depend on that strategic plan as a, you know, jumping off place. So, okay.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
So the strategic plan is currently underway of being written. We had a steering committee that kind of worked to identify some big overarching goals. And we identified 5 so far, and I think it'll be 5. And then we kind of looked at the community survey results and then identified 4 key areas that patrons let us know we have room for improvement. So those were access and equity, literacy, patron experience, and marketing, which we're calling sharing our story. So there are 4 subcommittees now that are identifying goals to help address some of the concerns patrons have and where we found out we can do better. And so the plan is to present that to all of you at the April board meeting. And so then you will see all of our great ideas and provide feedback at that point. So it is well underway. The subcommittee started meeting this week, and I am very excited to see what staff come up with. So that's where we are with it. And we are building assessment into each of the goals that we're doing and talking about how we're going to measure success. How will we know when this goal is completed? Do we have current measurements so we can tell if we're improving? And so that's all part of the discussion too that we're having.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brooke. Are there any other questions or discussion related to the grant application?
No.
I don't either, but I'm always like, this is typically when our other person that was on the board, that was our secretary, would tell us if we had any errors. So sorry, Piscopo.
Ms. Reed.
Yes. So it's okay.
Better job at being on top of that.
No, you're good. You're good. It's just I always like wait for like that comment. But seeing as there are no other comments or discussion on what was presented.
Just real quick.
Judith, go ahead.
On page 7, identified from the chapter 10 checklist, where we hope to improve. Provisions are made as needed to enable persons with disabilities, and there it is again, to participate in the program. And then you say, we want to do a better job of promoting. And I was thinking, and you brought it up, Mary, that you're going to be hiring someone, I think, maybe for the website, to make the website,
ADA accessible?
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know, a marketing and PR consultant for getting the word out about how the library, when the timing is right, about how the library does provide these things for the disabled community. So I just had that thought.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. So then going back to the motion, right? Since everyone seems right, no amendments need to be done. So the motion's still on the floor. So I had made the motion authorizing our library directors to submit the Illinois Public Library per capita grant application as presented. So I'll call for a vote, roll call vote. Donna?
Chris,
Yes.
Maria Piscopo,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Judith,
Yes. Big yes.
Yes. Motion passes. Linda, did she say?
No, she didn't say me.
Donna, Linda?
Linda.
Yes.
Thank you, Donna.
We're voting
You're
no.
welcome.
Thank you, Linda. Motion passes. So the deadline for submitting the per capita application is March 15, 2021.
I'll submit it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you, Mary. So then our next is just the last item on our new business agenda is just a discussion item. So the discussion item is related to the pandemic response in library operations. So Mary, I'll let you.
Things are status quo since we've reopened. Slow but steady. I think the weather has deterred some people. Even if we weren't in a pandemic, it would probably be a slow time of year for us. But the people who are coming in are happy with services. We have had a few issues with patrons who aren't wearing their masks properly or who are taking them down or taking them off, and staff are dealing with that pretty well, I think. Usually just a gentle reminder is enough to get them to pull their mask back up. I did learn today that we had a gentleman who took his mask off to take a cell phone call and was a little bit belligerent, but when told he had two choices, either put his mask back on or he would be asked to leave. He chose to put his mask back on and finish his call. But for the most part, people have been really positive, and I think staff are happy to have patrons back in the building again. But I think we're going to continue in the situation we're in with mask requirements and time limits and disinfecting and the routine we've gotten quite accustomed to for the foreseeable future. I don't see much happening to change where we're at now between now and next month. Locally, the numbers continue to decline, and that's very positive. So we're taking that as a good sign and cautiously optimistic that we'll start getting more vaccines and we can start trending in a positive direction. But I don't have any suggestions for any changes we need to make right now.
I just hope that people who are working at the library are able to get vaccinated and become a part of phase 1C.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard the state has, up till now, the state has said each county can decide where library workers should fall. But now there is some unofficial word that the state may be preparing to announce that we will be statewide in phase 1C. So that we should again start advocating at the state level with the IDPH and not worry about our county health department officials. So I have made the phone call I was asked to make to weigh in, adding one more voice to that. And we're waiting to see if that will be officially announced, but I've heard that it is coming, that we will be in 1C, but it is not official yet. So
If and when it is, I hope, would we have an opportunity to help, I guess, our employees to get vaccinated if they want?
I don't know. I will start making phone calls right away and find out as much as I can. I think I can learn from the information that's been shared by Mr. Langton and Dr. Barbonente at District 88. And I know they've struggled, and those of you who are involved in the school district know it hasn't been easy, but hopefully I can learn from them what worked and what didn't, and sort of avoid some of the missteps that are not. We would do everything we can. I might start by calling Hamdard, and if they are.
That would be great. I was just
distribute the vaccine.
That would be great. I was just curious, are there other, I guess, I don't know, are there other libraries that have something where they're helping their employees get vaccinated?
Haven't heard.
Not yet, because we aren't officially recognized in 1B, at least in DuPage County.
Yeah.
Other counties and other parts of the state have included library workers, but my understanding is those are mostly in states with, or in counties that have lower populations, and so there's not so much pressure or demand for the people that are already officially designated. The inclusion of school personnel and other frontline workers was made at the state level, or possibly even the federal level, I'm not sure, but that was not a county by county decision. But libraries, for whatever reason, at the state level in Illinois, they decided each county should decide whether they should include library workers. And what we understand from the DuPage County Health Department is it's not that they wouldn't like to include us, they just simply don't have enough vaccines for everybody. So they're trying to do the best they can with what they have available, and they're struggling to just get all of the seniors and the school personnel and other people that are officially in phase 1B. They were reluctant to expand it further when they know they just don't have enough to go around. So for now, we'll be patient and wait and see, but continue advocating and pushing for as much as we can. And when the time is right, we will work very hard to make sure our staff can get it.
Thank you, Mary.
Good. Good.
So then next, we'll move on to, seeing that this was just a discussion item, there's nothing that we would need to vote on today. We'll continue what you had mentioned, Mary, operations as we have been presently carrying them out would be the same way that we would continue for the, I don't want to say for the rest of this, for the rest of the month, but that's, it seems like since our numbers are going down that it makes sense to keep everything running the way that it is.
Do you want this to continue to be an agenda item each month? So we can discuss this, or?
I would say so, just so that we know to keep it on, at least so that we are aware of any changes that may happen at the local level.
Yes,
for us,
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you know, I think we always have to stay aware of these variants that are coming. I don't want to be a downer, but you just have to be aware.
Yes. No, I agree, Judith.
Right.
So then the next item really would be closed session, but we don't have a reason to go into closed session at this moment. So now we'll move on to correspondence and announcements. So we'll move on to libraries and the news. Any discussion, comments related to the information that's presented?
I see we've made the list.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Very good job. Very exciting about e-viewing coming.
Mm-hmm.
And one library mishandled $440,000. I think I can understand a quarter rolling under the copy machine or something. $440,000.
I know.
How?
What was the board missing in the numbers, you know?
Good question. I really do think it's how the information is presented. I think I'm glad Mary does a really good job of letting us know where everything is spent and where it's not spent and what line items we have. I think it's a matter of how transparent those numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
So then there's also other correspondence as well. I'm not sure if anyone had any comments. I like that they said that the library's doing a really great job. I like reading those.
Yeah.
And everyone is doing a really good job. So working at the library.
And And these are generally positive.
Correct.
And people
Yeah,
do
they were both really nice.
recognized.
Leslie was very happy to hear from the gentleman in the second comment, because when we did close back down in November, she was working with several patrons who were seeking jobs, and not all of them were available to have virtual one-on-one appointments to continue working with her. So she had referred them to Goodwill. I think they're located in Lombard. They have a service to help assist job seekers. And so several of our patrons that she'd been working with started going there, and we were really pleased to find out that they were also very helpful. And now he's back coming to the library, and had scheduled in it, we're guessing by the subject, that he had an interview that day. So,
That's great to hear.
yeah.
So next we'll move on to additional discussion, which is upcoming meetings.
So let's go back to that conversation. I'm sorry, I couldn't turn off mute.
Go ahead, Linda.
So next meeting, I would be kind of still a little bit uncomfortable with having even 7 people in a group.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
talk about maybe for me another option.
Or I mean, that's fine. I think if we wanted to do a group, I would say that would be the most realistic day. I don't think it necessarily has to be all of us.
We probably wouldn't even be having a meeting on site though next month, right? In March.
So it depends. Mary, are we at this point? I don't even know what tier we're on, to be quite honest with you, since our numbers have dropped for our county. I'm not sure, does that change?
We could have a meeting. We would have to limit the number of audience members who could come, but since we don't typically have audience members, that should be okay. It's just a matter of comfort level for all of you. We can continue meeting via Zoom too. We would have to use the large meeting room, and again, space tables out as much as we could. But
I mean, I'm good either.
We can meet wearing masks. Yeah. It's entirely up to the 7 of you and what you're comfortable with. You have both options available to meet in person or continue via Zoom. I would suggest, in part, to have, well, we can do 2 things. For the order of meetings, I don't know how much earlier any of you are available. If our regular board meetings start at 6:30, we could do the committee meeting either after the regular board meeting or before. If before is too early, we could start at 6:30, do the committee meeting after. Or if you can all start earlier, that's fine.
I can start earlier.
We used to meet at 7:30, and then we moved our meeting time up to 6:30. So I didn't know how much earlier we can get for committee meetings.
Are we talking like 6, or are we talking even earlier?
And that's what I wasn't sure how much was on our agenda to discuss. Is a half hour enough time? And Marianne's not here, so I can't ask this question.
It really depends on how many questions all of you have, but I think it could be tight.
For 30 minutes, got it.
But, if it runs long and the regular meeting starts later, I think that's okay. We can't start earlier, but.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, I'm good with us starting the committee meeting at 6 for finance, and then if we go over, we would just have to make note of it when we start the regular board meeting.
Right.
Is anybody not available by 6 o'clock?
The only person we would have to find out, right, would be Marianne, if that time works for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems like everyone can meet, right? 6 o'clock? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, 6 sounds good.
Okay. So then I think for us doing the walkthrough, Linda, I do think if people want to do individual, I think that's fine. I don't think that should be, I think that's fine to schedule with Mary if people want to do it that way. There's nothing wrong with that either. I know that if we're going to have our meeting on Zoom, I'm not sure how comfortable everyone feels being in the building. I mean, we could have our meeting next month, you know, on Zoom if everyone's okay with that. Virtual, yeah. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then what we can do is then, Mary, maybe we could look at times, and if people wanted to have a, I don't know, a time maybe where for those that want to do the group walkthrough, maybe we have a designated time, and people who can't or and want to do them preferably individually, that's fine too. They would just have to schedule with you. So maybe we'll have both as an option, people who want to walk through together, and then
yeah, if we get a group of at least 3 of you, we would have to post it as a public meeting, I think.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Which we can still do. And since we rarely have members of the public who show up, it should not be a problem. But if someone did, they can tag along with us.
Mm-hmm.
Can we stretch the group out a little bit? Maybe have two segments of the group walking through. That would still constitute one meeting, but we're just spaced out a little bit differently.
Yeah, Brooke, if you were available, we could also put you in 2 groups and have like Brooke start on the 3rd floor with one group, and I could start on the 1st floor with a different group.
That might be easier logistically in some of the tighter spaces and stairwells and so forth we'd be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
How would that sound for everyone else?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works for me.
Yeah,
okay.
I like that idea.
Sorry, Brooke, for offering you up.
I already offered myself earlier, so.
So then now we would just have to figure out a time. So if we meet virtually, if we meet in the building on that day, then we could at least then split ourselves up at the end, you know, since we'll already be there, so that there's a group of people for each.
But we're having a Zoom meeting for the next meeting, right?
So that's where we could decide to have a Zoom meeting.
Oh, I thought that's what we did.
So we did, but if we decide to do it, we could either decide to do this walkthrough on a different day, and then Mary can see what days are available instead of doing it that day, and we just keep our Zoom, or we could not do it on Zoom and then just do it in person, and then after the board meeting, do the walkthrough. What does everyone prefer? I know it's a lot of options.
I definitely would prefer another Zoom meeting for March.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll do a Zoom, and then maybe Mary, you could give us some dates.
But I mean, that's just my opinion. If anybody else feels different, you know.
No, I think that's fine. We could do the meeting on Zoom, and then we would just set, I'm not gonna lie, it's rough having meetings back to back and then doing the walkthrough at the end. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't overlooking options if people really wanted to do it. I know for me, it's rough having to be back to back. So I don't mind coming back another day, you know, where we could do the walkthrough at 7, you know, at a time where we could be here, but we're a split group.
Let's do a walkthrough a different day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A split group.
Yeah. That's fine.
Are there any days of the week that really don't work for any of you?
Not Thursday.
No Thursday. Okay.
That's it for me, but not Thursday.
And are we looking at daytime or evening time?
So if we look at evenings, 7 would be when the library is closed and there's no one else in the building but us. So if we wanted
7?
to do 7, yes, that would be ideal because no patrons won't be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is the library the cleanest?
I was going to say you can also do it before we open.
Right.
We open at 9. Mary and I are both typically in the building by 8. So we could start in public spaces and walk through too if that works better for anyone.
I know
probably an issue for people working, right?
Correct. That would count me out.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'm out if it's that time, so I have to do it after it closes.
Correct. I'm at the middle school at 7, so that would count me out.
Well, that's not good.
No, so I mean, we could do, and again, we could do 7, or I don't know if anyone likes to do weekends, but.
I'd say 7, and we'll pick a night other than a Thursday.
Yeah.
And then we'll just kind of stretch ourselves out.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 meeting notice, then there we go.
Correct. So Mary, if you could let us know what dates.
Yeah, if it's okay, Brooke and I can look at our calendars tomorrow morning and figure out, we'll pick 2 or 3 dates that work for us, and I'll send them out to all of you, and we'll try to find out what works best.
Okay, sounds good.
That sounds good.
Good.
And then I know we're still under just a little discussion. The only other thing is, so we have an intergovernmental meeting. It is on Zoom and it's on Thursday. So if anyone wants to join, Mary's going to send that link out to everyone.
Oh, thank you. Good.
I know. I was going to say, Mary, like when we go to, it's typically Mary and myself, but if anybody else wants to join, that would be great.
Also under additional discussion, in March, the board traditionally does my annual performance review. So I will prepare the report that I always prepare on my goals and accomplishments for the year that's ending, and a list of proposed goals for the upcoming year. But I wanted to see if there's anything else in particular that you want me to provide to you.
Not that I can think of. Linda,
evaluate this year.
No, I'm good. No, Mary, you always do a great job putting that together.
Correct.
Okay. If anybody thinks of anything, just let me know.
And we'll be getting that in February.
So
review.
Sorry, you'll be getting it right before
the March meeting.
Correct. So typically it's the Friday before.
Got it. Okay. Thank
you.
So
typically I would just upload it to board docs with the rest of the board packet. If you want it earlier, I can send it out to you in a different way.
Okay.
No, that's fine. And then typically we decide whether or not we're going to go in closed session, right?
Correct. So that meeting we probably, because it's up for discussion and we are conducting the review, then we would go into closed session. So we'd do separate recordings like we did last time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fantastic. Any questions? Comments? No. And I was like, oh no, this meeting won't be not that long, but I apologize. I asked a lot of questions.
Well, it's not that long, and I totally forgot today was Tuesday.
That's what happened.
It's okay. That not having, for me at least, work on Monday throws my week off, so it throws this day off.
Totally.
I understand. I was like, I really hope Linda's showing up.
Yeah, we were all like, where's Linda?
I know. It was like, oh my gosh, didn't even for 1 minute all day today say today's Tuesday.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think of who else. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're good, Judith. Well, thank you, everyone, for participating and joining us. I make a motion to adjourn. 10:33, second by Linda. Mm-hmm. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have my second vaccine March 13th.